Hey Tony, it's Friday, and first up to answer your question of the week, I'm not really far in Breath of the Wild. I think I might only be like 5 or 6 hours in. We've had it for a long time. I just haven't really played it. Didn't really, didn't really enjoy it as much as I enjoy other RPGs. I can't really tell you why. It's just I didn't particularly enjoy it. Um, but the game I have been playing and have been enjoying greatly is obviously Fire Emblem Three Houses. Came out last Friday, and I think I'm about 45 hours in. And I didn't even take it up on Taylor and I's trip, so a lot of my time at home has been spent playing that game. It's fantastic, has a wonderful story, has great gameplay, some of the best tactical gameplay I've had in a while, and there are so many great options that you can do with it that I for sure would recommend it. If you get the chance, you should pick it up. It's really good. Even if you've never played a Fire Emblem game before, it's a really good one to start on. There were a lot of good quality of life changes, and I really enjoy Fire Emblem. I've played several of their games, and this one is just awesome. Like this one's fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it. So get it. But now on to actually what I want to talk about this week is Taylor and I's trip that we took last weekend up to Lake Champlain. Now Lake Champlain is a pretty big lake. It's basically the border between New York and Vermont and Canada. Like that whole tri area is Lake Champlain. We were a mile away from the Canadian border. Like we could actually see the Canadian border from the porch of where we stayed, which was pretty fun. Like that was pretty amusing that we were able to see all the way across the lake. So we had a really wonderful time. So we ended up when I recorded my last video was when we were heading up on Friday. About a 5-hour trip up to where we were staying. It was called Isle Lamont. It was the northernmost and most remote island of Lake Champlain. And it was actually where the explorer Champlain, who it's named after, it's where he first landed, was on Isle Lamont. So it was kind of cool to kind of look at the history on that. We stayed at a really lovely place called the Inn at the Isles. If you and Tori ever get the chance to go to Lake Champlain, go to the Inn at the Isles. It was wonderful. It was a bed and breakfast, so it was an inn essentially, but they also provided a free breakfast each morning. It was very reasonably priced. The room was small, but it was a room to sleep in. There was so much around, and most importantly, all of their profits went to charity. Now I don't know if you ever did Writers Taking Action back in high school or ever did any work with Kiva, but the idea behind Kiva are microloans. They give loans to people in communities in impoverished countries to help them build their businesses and things like that. Well, what they did here is similar but kind of different, in which it was similar to Kiva in the fact that you went there and you ended up you went to there were loans that were given out to the community, but all that money stayed in the community. They were able to build homes, build things like that. It was really cool, and we really enjoyed that. And they would accept donations. We had our porch was beautiful. We had, like I said, we had the view of Lake Champlain from our porch. So Taylor and I each brought a book, and we just sat on the porch and read for a good portion of our trip. She finished a book, and I got pretty far in one of mine, and we had a really good time there. They had canoes and kayaks that you could rent from the inn for $5 each hour. So Taylor and I just grabbed 2 kayaks and went onto the lake for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, just kayaking. We had a really lovely time. The weather was perfect. Like we didn't have any rain or anything. It was gorgeous. Like we could not have asked for a better weekend. It was a little warm. It was a little warm from what people were kind of used to, but we didn't mind it. There was a nice breeze and we were happy. We went to a really nice dinner on Saturday night. It was called the Red Cliff Inn. Now, the Red Cliff Inn is another long-standing inn on Lake Champlain, and we ended up going there for dinner. Oh, it was fantastic! It was so good. I think I got seafood Alfredo, which was excellent. It was one of the best seafood Alfredos I'd had in a long time. Taylor ended up getting a surf and turf, which was also excellent. Because this was a lot of this was fish that was gotten right from the lake. That we had a beautiful view of the lake from that restaurant as well. We each had a nice glass of wine. They had a really excellent salad. Like the salad was one of the best parts of that meal. And it was all in all a really nice trip. On Sunday, we ended up leaving then at the Isles probably about 9 a.m. or so. And we ended up going down to Burlington, Vermont for a little bit. We were planning on staying in Burlington longer, but by the time we got down there, we were kind of ready to head home. So we spent, I think it was probably 2-3 hours in Burlington, checking out the shops, checking out the waterfront. Burlington's the largest city in Vermont, and it's also lakeside. It's where the campus for University of Vermont is. So we didn't check out the campus, but we drove past it, and it was beautiful, Tony. Like, it was so green. The buildings were gorgeous looking. Like most college campuses are pretty gorgeous, but this one was just absolutely fantastic. And we ended up going into downtown Burlington. They had the place called the Church Street Shops, which it used to be kind of a bit of a rundown area until in the 90s. An urban planner was like, "Hey, how about we make this into a big shopping center?" So they completely redid Church Street, and it was excellent. It was so many quaint little shops. Like we checked out a lot of really cool ones. We went to an awesome bookstore called The Crow. If you get the chance to go to Burlington, you got to go to The Crow. It had the feel of an old bookstore. It was so wonderful. I mean, I think Taylor and I probably picked up 6 or 7 books for under $50, and we enjoyed it so much we ended up getting a bumper sticker from the Crow. So it's in our car now. It's just the Crow, Burlington, Vermont. Crow Bookstore for Burlington, Vermont. But it was such a quaint little store, such a quaint little town. We really enjoyed it. We checked out the waterfront and a battery park, which was also really nice. We had a really good time. We ended up getting back probably 4 or 5-ish on Sunday, but we had a really wonderful trip. It's something I imagine we'll do again in the future. I really want to do a trip up to Bar Harbor sometime in the next couple months, but we'll see where we're at financially to see if we can do that. Mostly because I really want to do the Precipice Trail, and it opens August 15th. And now, I've kind of a limited window if I want to do it, because I don't want to go up to Maine in the middle of winter to hike on a cliffside. That's just a bad idea. But something that I know Ted and I have talked about doing for a little while is taking a trip up there. So we'll see if we do that again. Tony, my question for you is, are there any fun little places fun little vacations that you've gone on just for weekends since I moved out? Tony, I'll see you on Tuesday. Later, bro.